Good evening. Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as seen on the agenda. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Birch? Here. Ms. Cooper? Here. Mr. DiGiacchino?
Here.
Mr. Mail?
Here.
Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Santoro? Here. Mrs. Tover? Here. Ms. Virtue? Here. Mrs. Lees? Here. I have 2 items of correspondence. And one is an email from Jake Rosen, and I also have an email and a flyer from Alan Thurlow. Okay, report of the superintendent.
Good evening, everybody. Merriam-Webster defines appreciation as an expression of approval, admiration, or gratitude. Now, approval seems too low a bar to me, but I would certainly argue that both admiration and gratitude are inherent in the word appreciation. Consider admiration. I would hazard a guess that many educators choose to pursue the profession because of the admiration they felt for teachers they had as students. As someone who changed careers midlife, I know that this factored into my decision. We all remember back to the teacher or teachers that influenced feelings and moments at a particular point in our lives, and those that changed thoughts and trajectories in the long run. And while we admired them, our appreciation is incomplete without the gratitude. Gratitude for all that we learned, gratitude for support, encouragement, and motivation, gratitude for taking time to talk about more than just curriculum, for talking about hopes and dreams, for checking in on how we felt, for caring. This week is recognized as Teacher Appreciation Week. So whether you choose to do something nice for a current teacher or reach out to one that you had in the past, I'd ask us all to take some time this week to honor and appreciate all teachers by acknowledging our admiration and gratitude for their service. I'd like to introduce Susan Fisher. You're up. Pat, are you joining her? Did I neglect to? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I know we have a softball game we're trying to make it to in time, right? So if Pat wants to go first, there you go. This is important.
So right now her team's playing at the Rose Bowl, which is the name of the field. I didn't even know that. And I'm not just wearing, I just have hat head. We played against one else too. And I'll make this quick. We're here recognizing Bella because she, as a representative of Bernardsville Middle School, won distinction and will be recognized next week at Rutgers University from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. because she wrote a stellar letter, an ode of appreciation to take from you, a summer reading book entitled I Will Always Write Back, How One Letter Changed 2 Lives. And for those of you who don't know, Letters About Literature is in all 50 states, and she won as a New Jersey 7th grader. I think the best luck you can have is date at your birthday. So she turned 12 on December 13th of 2018, sent it off, and we found out about 3 weeks ago that she will be honored along with 50 others, 4th through 6th graders. She's in the intermediate, 7th and 8th grade, and 9th through 12th graders. To my knowledge, no middle school student at Bernardsville Middle School has ever won, so we're absolutely delighted. And I'm reading this next week, if I can attend. I said, Bernardsville Middle School is delighted that stellar 7th grade student Isabella Bella Solana has earned recognition for her letters about literature submission, which was dated December 13th, 2018, her 12th birthday. And I thank Ms. Fisher, who nominated amazing summer reading, because Bella is just so amazing. She's got a jet out to her softball game, catch her, she does it all. But when I read her letter and the 4 other students from her class who decided to submit, I got those tingles, and you know that's when it's good. So words can make a difference, and she definitely is a writer extraordinaire. So thank you, Bella.
It is my sincere pleasure to introduce Pradnesh Thope, who is here with his proud family, dad and sister. Where did they? Oh, they're right here. Okay. Pradnesh is a remarkable 6th grade student at BMS, and this evening we recognize and celebrate his extraordinary spelling abilities.
Mrs. Fisher, wasn't Pradnesh here once before?
Yes, I'm getting to that, Dr. Nancy. Pradnesh proudly and enthusiastically represented our school district at the Somerset County Scripps Spelling Bee held on Saturday, March 16th in Somerville. In fact, this is Pradnesh's 2nd year representing Somerset Hills as our Bernardsville Middle School Spelling Bee champion. Pradnesh spends much of his free time studying hundreds of words. He is a faithful member of our BMS Spelling Bee Club, and as such, spent many lunch periods this year practicing his spelling in the context of appropriate school spelling bee protocol. I am impressed with and proud of Pradnesh's dedication, passion, and unending enthusiasm for spelling. He participated in both the school and county spelling bees with a mature perspective, exemplary character, and sincere respect and appreciation for the spelling bee process. Please join me in celebration as we recognize Pradnesh for representing BMS as a stellar speller.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. All right, Jack and Finn, you're up. How many McDonald's are there in this one?
We're just going to give you a little quick update on the events taking place in Bernardsville Middle School. So I'd like to introduce ourselves. So I'm Jack, I'm the student body president, and this is my brother Finn, he's the student body vice president. Anyway, right now there are a few sports in season that are doing quite well. The softball team, which is 4-2, actually just played Mendon today. We have a few home runs, one by Mariana Tobias and one by Vanessa Maharaj, and Caitlin Spashing is pitching just a little bit. They're looking forward to a deep run in the tournament and have a fun season so far. The baseball team is still looking for their first win. They've lost 6 games, 3 by 1 run, and are hoping to get their first one against Mendon today. The boys are working hard as a team.
Track and field has 2 meets this week. The big one is the annual Bernardsville Rodeo Invitation at BHS tomorrow, where some records are sure to be set. We have 70 kids participating in track and field, including many 5th graders. This season, Coach O'Halloran and D. Simone held a Saturday clinic for jumping events, which was very well attended and got the kids excited for the season. Cinderella Kid Musical was held this past weekend and was a huge success. Thursday night was a packed house. Meredith Mitchell was Cinderella and Carly Holda was the fairy godmother, with Julian Lenchi as the prince.
As many of you may know, we are currently in the NJ SLA testing in the mornings with a modified schedule at the end of the day. The 8th graders are now taking part in a project centered around the Mine Brook water quality, which will eventually result in a field trip, and a few more analysis. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Are you hiding somewhere? There she is.
Every time, I'm just too tall, okay. Hello, I'm Kendall Gilbar. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the high school student board representative. So just to start off with a bang, the Crimson, which is our school newspaper, won first place with special merit just past week. And basically that's an award for newspapers which honors the top 25 newspapers in the entire country. And we also won a special category award for most outstanding newspaper for 2018 to 2019, which only is awarded to 8 out of 288 schools, which is pretty impressive. So that's for the American Scholastic Press Association. So congratulations to Ms. Hunkley and to the entire staff, which I know put a lot of effort into this year's newspaper. We recently had the NHS induction ceremony where close to 60 NHS members were introduced, and there was a lot of talk about where people were going to colleges, and it was really fun because the seniors could introduce each other and tell everyone that they were attending. And Mr. Kaplan was actually chosen as the honorary inductee by the seniors, which was a great award for him. I know the seniors really wanted to acknowledge him in a special way. So May 1st was decision day for seniors, and everyone wore their college t-shirts, and it was a fun way to get everyone involved and kind of like preach out to the world where you were going to college and all the hard work paying off. And there were pictures on the turf, and there was a lot of spirit just around the high school. Signing day also happened this past week, where student athletes were formally signed on to play college sports next year, which was a great honor. I think there was like under only 10 students who were signing, which is a great honor for them. Intergenerational prom happened just this past weekend. We had 120 volunteers, which is amazing, and over 100 senior citizens who came. And I'd also like to thank the board members who came to the event and witnessed the amazing, the intergenerational prom firsthand. Most importantly, I'd again like to honor Mr. Kaplan and the Key Club for putting on such a wonderful event that I know really affected the community in a positive way. APs are this week and next. I know student stress is definitely up, and there's a lot of studying going on before school, during school, after school. I think during this time you really witness how much academics matter to the students at Bernard's High School, because everyone is just totally invested in their studies this week. So senior prom is coming up on May 31st, and tickets are on sale starting just this past week. There's a lot of excitement around prom. There was even a promposal spray painted on the Mountie Rock, which is right by the senior parking lot if anyone wants to check out the really cute promposal on the way out. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to introduce Lisa Garofalo and Colleen Butler, the middle school principal and our director of guidance, who are going to give us an update on the school climate initiative that is currently in place at the middle school.
Well, that's a pretty tough act to follow. They were all pretty amazing. Congratulations to all of you. So, hi everyone. It's great to see so many of our students and teachers here this evening. Last spring, Liz Warner of the United Way was here to talk about the School Culture and Climate Initiative that Dr. Devasey initiated when she was principal of the middle school. Ms. Garofalo and the BMS community have been working hard on this initiative throughout the year, and we just wanted to give you a brief update. I will give a bit of background and then hand things over to Ms. Garofalo, who has really been immersed in this work all this year. To reiterate the goals of the initiative for the board and to present them for the first time to new board members as well as to the audience, just give you a little bit of background on middle school, right? From my own experience with my own children in middle school, I just want to share a very brief story I'm going to share with some of you before. I can remember it's a really tumultuous time in a child's life, and therefore are you just flashing? It's a really tumultuous time, and I can remember one evening, my husband and I kind of cuddled together, and we said to each other, we're going to get through this. There's only one of her, and there's two of us. So we did get through it, and for any of you who have middle schoolers at home, you will as well. Little bit of background. A psychologist once said, middle school is by far the weirdest time of our life. Our students have so much to contend with: changing bodies, the pressure to perform academically in athletics activities, the pressure to fit in with peers, the complexities of navigating social media. That's all true of high school students as well, but middle school students offer some unique challenges that are indicative of that age. Bodies can feel out of control. Many think of this as kind of people's awkward phase. If there's any middle schoolers, I'm not talking about you. You are not awkward at all. The relationships that they had in elementary school start to change. So not only are their bodies unpredictable, but their social structure is as well. In their angst, caused by the uncertainty around them, they often look to reacquire some sense of control. Sometimes that might mean putting someone else down to give themselves a sense of power that they are feeling that they're lacking. Since they haven't yet developed the part of the brain that helps them to fully evaluate the cause and effects of their actions and what they say, they don't always understand the potential damage that might cause. Middle school friendships are often formed out of a need to belong to a group, and even in a group of friends, some students might feel alone. Middle schoolers are moving towards independence from their parents. However, they still crave the security that parents offer. So sometimes if you're living with a middle schooler, it may almost look like they have one of those stoplights with a green light and a red light, and they're flashing sporadically with no time in between, and there's no real reason for going in between. If you are parenting or teaching a middle schooler, try to show them as much empathy as possible. They're at a difficult stage and they need that security, stability, and support from you. And also find someone to support you through it. That's what my husband and I did. It's not for the faint of heart. With this in mind, the goal of our initiative is to provide us with the means to continue to improve the culture and climate of BMS so our middle schoolers can thrive. Now we've got evidence. Yeah. Some of the evidence supporting the need for improving the social and emotional skills and school culture and climate are: doing so has been found to lead to increases in academic achievement, a decline in conduct problems and disciplinary issues, an increase in measures of emotional and social well-being. Other findings also show lower rates of risky behaviors. Our plan in utilizing the assistance of the United Ways Initiative is to assess the staff, students, and parents' perceptions of the climate and culture of the school, receive support in the analysis of the data, receive training in ways to promote students' social and emotional skills and character development, implement a structured process to make improvements, and to implement a process to help us develop a shared set of core values. Now, I would like to turn things over to Lisa Garofalo, the principal of the middle school, to tell you more about year one of the initiative, since she's been boots on the ground.
Thank you, Mrs. Butler. Okay, thank you. We're going to talk a little bit about the timeline of year one. So this fall, all of our students, parents, and staff had an opportunity to partake in a survey sponsored by the United Way, and that was available through online resources. And I'll flesh out a little bit about what this looked like in the fall. And you can see from the slide here that that data that was collected that we looked at then allowed us to establish a culture and climate team of staff and a student team, and we'll discuss those also in later slides. So a student team was created. This fall, our group of 6th and 7th grade students, and we worked with 6th and 7th graders in recognizing that this is a long-term goal, so having some students who will be vested in the building over a period of time as well. The group of stakeholders went to Drew University with Mr. Habermas and Ms. Rizzuto leading that team. And one of the great things about working with United Way is that our children have an opportunity to meet children from other schools And they worked in breakout sessions for problem solving, talking about things that common issues and things that middle schoolers face together. So that was a good way, and we were fortunate because of the timing of how Dr. Dempsey organized this, that we had this opportunity to participate at the same time that we were collecting data. So the survey results, like I said, and through the tremendous support also of our HSA in supporting having that survey done, we had all of our students participated, all of our staff members, and a large percentage of parents. And as we go through this, we'll look about where those results were and what we're doing with them now. But when I talk about staff members participating, I want you to know not just teachers, it was secretaries, custodians, paraprofessionals, everyone who has an opportunity to live in our BMS house had an opportunity to share their voice. So what did the survey say? The survey said we had some key strengths, and overall, there will be some common themes here, but overall, the great news is that our students feel very good about being at BMS. There's positive feelings, students feel safe, they feel an overall sense of friendship and belonging and connectedness to the school. They feel that their teachers care about them, and they feel that they are cared for. So we have a solid foundation. Coming out of that as well, there were some opportunities. The first opportunity talks about where our children are developmentally, in that, as Mrs. Butler shared, we're always looking for having a greater voice. We're getting to feel our independence, and that's something that we want, but we still need the support of, I was going to say our elders, that's not what I meant. That was the word I had for the minute, of our parents and our teachers, and that's certainly there. So we need to work on bringing student voices in to shape our environment. I can speak that this is something, as Mrs. Butler said, boots on the ground. This is something we're continually working on at BMS, particularly through expanding the scope and overall visibility and viability of our student council members, as we saw here tonight. Just this past week, we had an opportunity, which is something a little unique to BMS. We've always had a dance that's called the 8th grade dance at BMS. You've probably heard of it. So this year, we have a group of students who are the dance committee members, and they're creating a name for that. They're surveying their peers for activities that they want to see at dance. They're creating a playlist. So there's a greater sense of involvement. And again, when we talk about shaping the environment that we live in at BMS, that's terrific. One of the other things, and our student council members who are here tonight, who did a great job, had an opportunity in the fall to go meet other student council members from other schools and hear what are, not just what are other high schools doing that we can look to, but what are other middle schools doing to support their environment, and how we can maybe bring some of those ideas to BMS and create some of our own. So the next slide deals with strengths of what did our staff say. And what was really terrific in looking at the data, and again, another great thing about dealing with United Way and their partnership with St. Elizabeth's, is we took these surveys in the fall, and the data came back from St. Elizabeth disaggregated to us in January. So we really had a good idea to be able to look at where were all these strengths of the stakeholder groups. And one thing that you couldn't help but notice is that what our students are feeling, our staff is feeling at the middle school. There's an overall general satisfaction with what's going on at the school. There is a sense of connectedness. Staff feel aligned with our children, and they feel a sense of connectedness with one another. I think if you've been in our school, you can certainly feel that in walking through the hallways. Opportunities for growth involve the discipline policy and how well it's agreed upon. When we talk about looking at this as an opportunity for moving forward, certainly in a 3-year time period, we also look at the data as opportunity to continually reflect. So as management is an important part of the day-to-day operations of the school, this particular item is something that we have resurveyed with the staff, and we find an increase in positive responses overall. Some of the student comments that came back when we talk about that that team that went to Drew University came back, and they've had an opportunity to meet monthly and reflect on where are they going with creating an action plan, which we'll talk about in later slides, is to talk about how vested our students are in their community. Students recognize that part of what makes you feel good is walking into a building that makes you feel good to be there. So there's been students looking at opportunity to create, where are we with the volume in our cafeteria, which is something that we're working on, and just a sense of what's going on in the building around us. Maybe we as students need to start picking things up. Who knows, it could make their way into under their bed and closets from this point, but it's something that students feel important, that this is their school and they want some direction from us on how to make it show that. And I think that says a lot about where our school is at right now. Again, and I'm very appreciative to our HSA for supporting this effort so much. Our parent surveys were very positive. They feel, what parents reflect is that they feel that their students like the school. And again, going back to see those commonalities between the 3 groups surveyed, there's just a general feel good about what's going on at BMS. Opportunities for growth with parents involved, that we have these established relationships and looking for opportunities to continue to do that. I think we're off to a great start with our monthly parent coffee opportunities, to just have parents come in and talk about things that are impacting parents of middle school age children, not necessarily just the day-to-day operations of the school. We love the coffees at BMS. So where are we going? I've talked a little bit about year 1. Where do we continue to go? Our culture and climate team meets monthly. The slide reflects Mrs. Carey. She is the person who's our intermediary between United Way, and she's our guiding force. And that's no pun intended, because she is a retired guidance counselor. So she really has a great sense of working with staff and as well as working with the students, so she sits in on those meetings as well. And we'll continue between now and June to develop some more solid action plans with the students and the staff. Year 2, which I look forward to standing up here talking about as well, we'll talk about what those look like fine-tuning in the building. Thank you.
Thank you all for your support. Update, and we look forward to your opinion.
Thank you.
That concludes the
Thank you. I would like to address a couple of comments that were made during the last board meeting. One person asked how we can vote on a budget without a contract for the teachers. According to statute 18A 7F-5, annually on or before March 20th, each district board of education must submit a budget for the upcoming year. So within that budget, although we cannot state what those budgeted increases are for our salaries, our budget does include reasonable amounts for all of our staff. Another comment that was made suggested that money could be invested that would yield enough money to give the staff raises. While it is true that we can invest funds, we are restricted in those investments. We can only invest in obligations that are guaranteed or backed by the U.S. government or government money market mutual funds. This is all stated in statute 18A 20-37. I have been in discussions with our bank about investing in short-term bonds and CDs as the interest rates have been improving. To date, the rates for less than a year have not been attractive enough to pursue, but if they do improve, we will certainly pursue those investments. Before we get into public comment, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. It's especially encouraging to see so many involved, engaged students here. We applaud you for taking your time to share your thoughts with us. It's my belief that before we can move forward, we need to step back a little bit. Stepping back to look at and agree with what unites us all here tonight, our passion for education. Teachers and staff members who choose this profession, students whose lives are affected each and every day by the environment in which they learn and grow, and the group of people at this table here in front of you tonight who volunteer their time, energy, and hearts to help Somerset Hills School District offer the very best public education possible. We all have much more in common than it may seem. We all are on the same side. We all are one team. Every one of us on the school board admires what our teachers do every day. You are the lifeblood of our children's education, and you are our highest priority. Our budgets prove it. 74.9% of the annual budget is dedicated to you. As board members, it is also our sworn duty to consider all of the other critical pillars supporting great education. Offering our children a safe, top-notch facility in which to learn, continuously updating technology, developing a robust course catalog from which students can find inspiration, providing a wide range of athletic and extracurricular opportunities to allow our children to graduate Bernards as informed, smart, well-rounded, and passionate kids, kids that are happy, kids that can and will make a difference in the world. We are doing all of this and more while managing the resources we have and maintaining our fiscal responsibilities to the public, which supports the district, your district, my district, our district. For over 100 years, New Jersey school boards have been tasked with providing students with a continuing public education. Education which must be sustainable for the children here with us tonight and for the children in the next 100 years to come. All of us before you tonight are committed to doing our absolute best to take all of these things into consideration as we proceed through the negotiation process. We look forward to meeting the association again on May 16th in fact-finding to come to an agreement with them, ensuring that our energies can return to what brought us here in the first place, our passion for these kids' education. Thank you. Public questions and comments. We very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, but an individual may speak for a second time after all others who wish to speak on a topic have been heard. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey State statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public questions and comments will be limited to 30 minutes. Thank you for your input. And I just want to say that we welcome everybody to speak, but we don't want to interrupt you when you're speaking. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak in the 30 minutes. So you are limited to 3 minutes per person. And rather than interrupt you, we're going to hold up a little sign so you can be reminded and you can wrap it up.
I'm just going to thank the teachers for everything they've done for my kids, but I don't want to waste my time. So thank you very much on our Teacher Appreciation Night for all the kids, the teachers that should be in the Hall of Fame for everything they've done for my children here. But I'm going to preface my comments. I'm addressing the policy action, use of school facilities action on the agenda. I want to preface this with, I know that you have a thankless job and your decisions are hard, but I would like to say that I feel like two wrongs do not make a right. And basically what happened here is the town council has done wrong by instituting a fee for their field, which is wrong, and hopefully eventually will be eradicated by maybe having new council members or maybe a new fund that's going to pay for the field, but I feel like that should not be a factor in your decision regarding the high school field, which was a gift presented to you. And I know there's been rumblings in some meetings where I think people have said, like, we think maybe we paid for it, meaning the school, but you didn't pay for it. It was a gift given to the school by SHAP. And as many of you may know or may not know, in 2008, around 2008, there was an organization of people that was raising funds to build this turf field. Some were from Bernardsville, some were from neighboring communities. The committee raised $480,000. The rest of the money, about $420,000, were gift in kind. At the time, a lawsuit was brought which dragged the process out, and they were short about $100,000 in funds. They felt that they were going to have to give the money back that they had been gifted to, unless about 8 people got together, one of my family members included, took out a personal bond, a personal loan to pay for that field. So the town paid for it, and actually 8 people in the community stood up, put their name on, took out a loan, a personal loan, in their own name to pay for that field. It took them many, many years to eventually pay that off, because in 2008, as we all know, there was a financial crisis. So people were not giving their money to help pay back that $100,000 loan. They tried to fundraise for that money, and the school board was actually not very helpful. They wanted to have an event on the turf field. They were not allowed to. So those 8 people were stuck with a $100,000 loan that they personally paid for that field. Fast forward now, there was an agreement that ran out that included no fees. Now that agreement is gone. We have 2 members sitting on the board that were, and so they were related to the lawsuit that was against the school. And I just feel like that's a conflict of interest. At the very least, it's a very huge appearance of impropriety. They have a very strong interest. They were involved with the lawsuit that sued the school and cost the school a lot of money about usage of that field in particular. So, now let me get to my notes. So what I'm encouraging you to do, I'm encouraging you to be community-minded. Unlike the town council that is not being community-minded, I'm encouraging you to be community-minded. I'm encouraging you to meet with the people that are going to suffer as a result of the fees. They will sit down with you. They will show you that they cannot afford these fees. Their organizations will go belly up. We are unlike other towns, and I know you compare it to other towns. We are a very small sports community. There's not enough kids in the 4th grade for my son's football team. They are down, they couldn't even play, it's a few. So they have like 3 extra kids this year, barely enough to form a team. If the funds should double, you lose those extra kids. We are not the same as Basking Ridge. We cannot afford the extra fees. You'll lose too many people, and we can't afford to spread it among, they have hundreds and hundreds of kids, and we just do not have that. So you're comparing apples and oranges when you look at other fields. In addition to the fact that if you're looking at a high school that paid for their own field, this was a gift. So I don't know how that could be compared. And in addition, when the field that you're saying that needs to be replaced, the funds were set aside for that. It has been paid for. It's in the capital account. And actually, if you went back to the minutes in 2008, that was part of the process, that those funds had to be set aside at that point in time. So I guess I would say learn from the borough's mistakes. Don't follow the borough's mistakes. Be community-minded and meet with the people before you decide. Meet with the people that are being personally affected by this. It's not that they want to take over the high school field. They're being put in a position themselves where they cannot afford to use that field. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Pat Wright. I live at 66 Anderson Hill Road in Bernardsville. You're going to shut me down real fast, but I got to be in bed by 9 so I can get up and go to work tomorrow morning and teach. I just came back from tutoring, which is my 3rd job as a teacher. As a concerned community member and a parent of a rising senior at BHS, I call on the Somerset Board of Education to settle a fair contract with its teachers. We know that the cost of benefits, and that's why I can talk to you tonight, is far outpacing teacher raises. You know it, I know it. I just told you, I have to work 3 jobs to support my family. I'm 60 years old. This is not what I signed up for when I became a teacher in 1981, but it's what I've got now. We need to treat our teachers fairly and equitably. They're all families, they're all parents, and as a teacher, I can tell you, I have over 300 kids that I'm a parent to every day, as well as to the rising senior I have at home. I know we're here to work together. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Noble Avellino. I live in Bernardsville at 60 Highview Avenue, and I'm a sophomore at BHS. And before I continue, I just want to say I could not agree more with the earlier comments from Mrs. Lees about how we are all in this together. For more than 16 years now, I have been a child. And for nearly all of my childhood, I have been attended school, where my teachers taught me. My teachers, as I can speak for everyone in this room, have been my biggest influences, second only to my parents. Teachers are just not responsible for teaching us how to say "where's the bathroom" in another language, or how Daniel Morgan doesn't get enough credit in the Revolutionary War, or whether to use who or whom. Teachers are responsible for more than that. Teachers are responsible for turning us into the passionate, responsible, intelligent, caring members of society, and they do far more than sit at their desk while we fill out bubbles on a Scantron. For those who couldn't tell when I walked in the room, I am a musical kid. I perform in madrigals, I am in the marching band, I do the fall and spring shows here at the school, and I would not be who I am today without a very passionate teacher at the Bedminster Middle School. He does God's work, man. He taught the band and the orchestra, the jazz band. He did the show, he choreographed the whole thing with very little help, and he taught private lessons outside of school. I, in 6th grade, decided that I wanted to quit band, and so when my brother would go to practice in the morning, I would sit in the back of the classroom. And my parents said, you gotta make it play, you have to force him to play. And he said, no, I've seen this before, you're gonna wait this out, and he's gonna sit there for a little bit, and then you'll see what happens. And I'm very pleased to say that because of that, I'm going to be trying out for drum major next year, my 3rd season of marching band. And I just got the amazing privilege to audition for one of my favorite shows with two of my other friends, Leah Rampanelli and Isabel Bucchino. And none of this would have been possible for that teacher. That teacher is not a rarity in our school system. I am thankful to say, and while I know my teacher, because of what he's done for me, every kid has their own teacher with whom they have a special connection, a teacher who goes the extra mile for them. Every teacher has their own Mr. LaFerge. Teachers do much more than they are required to because they were blessed with a very special heart to give a little extra for the members of our society who need the most direction. For some, that means staying after school to give students additional help to prepare them for a test. Others, it's reviewing an essay due in a couple days during their lunch period. For many, it is writing recommendation letters, or it's music lessons, or advice on an audition, or just someone to talk to when we are feeling stressed, which is not uncommon. So many additional things that teachers do, but never really get enough credit for. Board of Education, I understand you guys have a hard job, and I thank you for it. It's also a very thankless job, and it's very difficult. But our teachers have that too. And our paraprofessionals, and our janitors, man. When last meeting we congratulated Victor, who is retiring after this year, it brought me to tears, man. As a theater kid, he's just done so much for us, and he's touched me in so many ways. So I, along with the help of a few other students and 0 teachers, they can attest, we are plenty capable of causing trouble on our own, decided to do a little more than saying thank you for them. And so I thought it was most appropriate that on National Teacher Appreciation Day, we came to you to vocalize our support for a fair and good contract for our teachers. Thank you, board members, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Our faculty shapes me and my fellow students into the involved and caring young men and women we are today, and they deserve the world. Let's make sure they get it. And until they do, I am with the faculty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Gunning. I'm a student at BHS and a resident at 2 Prospect Street, PPAP. This group of students from you're hearing from today, we got together because none of us were really aware of what the contract negotiations were, but once we were, I think we all just wanted to support the teachers, and I want to establish that we're not affiliated with the teachers union or any of that. We weren't influenced by them. We all came here of our own accord because of, like Noble said and has emphasized, they really mean a lot to us, and we really appreciate what they do. But I think a lot of parents and a lot of students don't really appreciate or recognize teachers enough, and that shows in and out of the classroom. But I think that's something, and I know you've heard from a lot of teachers. You've had a lot of opinions come to these meetings, and you haven't really heard the students' point of view on this, but I think it's definitely an important one. 3rd, 4th grade, elementary school, middle school, high school, I've had teachers who have impacted me in a lot of ways. Miss Dempsey in 4th grade, or 3rd grade, taught an enhanced math class that has made me love math ever since. And I've had just teachers throughout the years always go above and beyond and offering extra help, which is invaluable to all the students, and they're not required to do that. And I think the contract negotiations are something that all of the students should be more aware of because of everything that teachers do for us, and that I just urge you to take into consideration everything that the students or the teachers do for the students, and how much, even if we don't show it, and I don't think we appreciate enough, the teachers do for us. And I think that it can, this is an important point of view because this affects our learning environment. How happy and satisfied the teachers are affects our learning environment, whether it comes to letters of recommendation, how passionate they are about their job, which I think they all really are. So I'd just like to thank you, and I thank you for your time and listening to us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caroline Sullivan, and I live in Bernardsville, and I'm a senior here at BHS. Today, I would like to speak to you about, I'm sure you guys can guess the same things they've been speaking to you guys about. So every teacher I've ever had has impacted me in some way, like I'm sure every single one of you has also had the same experience. Again, I want to make it clear that none of the teachers have encouraged us to do this, and that we're here on our own accord because we just care for these teachers so much because they do extraordinary things for us. So for me personally this year, it's been a little bit of a rough year. There have been countless times I've seen the extraordinary kindness and how frequently all of the teachers go above and beyond their contracts as they helped me deal with when I was in a car accident, when we found out my dad had a brain tumor, and when my aunt died. And through that all, you kind of lose yourself. You go through hard times, right? Everyone does. But it's the teachers who help pick you up. It's the teachers who remind you who you are because they see you for 7 hours a day. You know, they're the ones you idolize and the ones you look to because you admire their strength and their ability to really care for the students and to care for people outside of themselves and outside of their families. My teachers are the reason I'm here right now and the reason I'm here today. So I've truly learned to appreciate how, yeah, their contracts may say 7:30 to 2:41 or whatever it says, but they give a lot more than that. Countless times you can find any teacher talking to students, helping them through rough times. Each teacher is dedicated to bettering the lives of their students and the community. They help mold students into who they are today because teachers work with our future, and they help mold the future into something exceptional. Because even on their off periods, teachers work to better the students both academically and emotionally. Every teacher here tonight, or in this school district, deserves the world, and I can guarantee that they have touched more than just my heart, but many others as well. I am the person I am today because of all my phenomenal teachers, and I wish I could give them to the world. So, thank you to every teacher I've met throughout my 15 years here at the Somerset Hills School District, and I would like to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak today and for the opportunity of my peers to speak today about how much we admire our teachers. Thank you.
Howdy everyone, my name is Micah Kobayashi. I'm a senior at Bernards High School and I live in Far Hills at 71 Mosel Road. Not to sound like a broken record, we are here on our own volition. Usually I'm still asleep after having taken an afternoon nap, so I'd much rather be doing that, but I'm here today. I would just like to take time to speak on one of the most challenging times in my life that happened over the past year and how my teachers had really helped support me through it. My grandma died suddenly back in January, and it was the third, and it left me really heartbroken because it was the third death of a close family relative in 8 months. it was a really difficult time for both my family and myself, but especially myself, because I was close to both my grandmas. And the last thing on my mind was school. Obviously, I didn't want to fail, but it was kind of a far-off thought. Sorry, I lost my place. I was really thankful, though, because my teachers, in so many ways, moved pretty much heaven and earth to help me cope with my loss and also help me pass my classes and really succeed academically. My English teacher routinely bent over backwards to give me extensions on assignments, and even if it meant he was thrown off in his own grading or would get thrown behind or whatever, he still did so without any kind of, comment or any kind of complaint. My physics teacher, despite the intensity of the course, worked with me patiently so that I didn't fall behind, but also gave me time to grieve. He balanced that perfectly. Heck, my college readiness teacher let me change my yearbook quote halfway through the school year, something which you're really not supposed to do, so that I could honor the loss of my grandmas. Something as small as that has such a profound effect on someone who's struggling to grieve. You see, a teacher's impact isn't merely measured in the content they preach or the grades their students pull off. It's measured in the humanity that they show their students. For some of us, their impact, this humanity, makes or breaks our success, not just as students, but as healthy members and productive members of any community or society. The thing that I implore the board to consider most is that this is just my experience with my teachers. There are 800 more just like this. Every person who goes through these walls, I guarantee you, can give you one way that at least one teacher has changed their lives for the better. I was a new student here last year, and I have only been here for 2 years, yet already my teachers have left a truly lifelong impact on me. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Michael Long. I'm a resident at 22 Crest Drive in Burnsville. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I don't have prepared remarks, so I'm going to speak a little off the cuff, but I came here tonight. I am a father of 3 children in the district, 1 at BMS, 1 at Bedwell, and very proud of the schools, very happy to be a participant in this community. I'm also a coach for a lacrosse team, the youth lacrosse team here for the last 4 years. I'm one of the coaches for a youth football team here for the last 3 years. I've been on the board for the lacrosse organization here, SHLC. I don't come here on behalf of those organizations specifically. I'm not authorized to speak on their behalf, but I come here as a concerned father, parent, resident of this community. I understand there was a request to hear from some members of the community about what we thought about the field usage charges. And I'd just like to express and reiterate my friend here, Jen Walsh, that the proposed charges will put an immense squeeze on the youth sports leagues in this town. We are volunteer organizations. We give of our time, as do all of you. We run from work to get here. We run from practice to get back home. We do everything we can to try and make an opportunity for the kids of this town to have a chance to be in the team, to learn from a coach, to learn what it means to be a good sportsman or sportswoman. And we are constantly facing battles when it comes to field usage, field availability, juggling all of the complicated things that go into that. So I would just implore the school board to speak to the community, to speak to the individuals that are running these leagues, to help us to come to a solution that will hopefully work for everybody, and to not impose the fees that are being considered now, or at least not impose them at this moment, to gather more information, help us provide you with that information, and please be willing to listen to the concerns that we have. So thank you very much. On behalf, again, I'm speaking for myself, but as an impassioned and involved member of the community who really wants to be able to support the youth sports leagues that are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
How close do I need to do this? Okay, we're good. My name is Paul Coates. I'm from 601 Minebrook Road. And as you can tell, since I'm wearing the right shirt, I'm talking about what they talked about. I take for granted a lot of things. I take for granted the water that comes out of my faucet in the morning, the eggs that I have on my plate, and the nice school bus I get to ride into. I take for granted the amount of time Ms. Chrisman spent with me making sure I know that I'm doing my art. Took for granted how Mrs. Souza helped me write a speech. I took for granted how she helped me get the courage to stand up here today. I don't want to take for granted their opportunities that they spent to further my education. I want to see them still after school. I want to see them helping me learn. I want to help them get their own contract. I know this is not easy for anyone involved. There's not a lot of voice that I can carry, but I can still carry it, so that's what I'm going to do. I want to see teachers prosper, because if they prosper, students prosper. We all grow somehow, and if we are to grow as a whole nation, we need our students to grow. Now, I'm going to keep everything brief because I really don't have good time management, so that's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration of my words.
Are there any other public comments and questions at this time? We have one.
Hi, Lou Palmer from Gladstone. I want to talk on the field use. Also, I did speak at the last meeting, asked me to reconsider that, and I'm hoping that you will do that again tonight. One of the charges of the board is to do what's in the best interest of children in the district. And I think imposing a fee and putting a strain on some of these youth organizations is not doing what's in the best interest of the students and the children of this district. And putting that on there is not going to, it's going to negatively impact these organizations. And putting the fee on is not going to stop it from being an impact on the neighborhood or whatever, if that's a concern for putting these fees on. So I'm hoping that you would reconsider that, because I think you heard from some of these organizations, it is a strain. That's one of the things that I tried to bring up last month at the meeting. And so I'm hoping that you would reconsider this, or at least table this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other public comments, I'd like to close that. And we're going to move on to organizational action items.
We need a motion to move the organizational action items.
One through how many here we have?
1 through 57.
57. Yeah. Okay, can I have a second? Janice. Thank you, Janice.
And I just want to make mention that on number 55, we have Susan Fisher is listed as EMS. She should be under number 56 in central office. We need to just move that.
Do you mind speaking a little more loudly into the microphone?
Sure.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make note that Susan Fisher is listed under number 55 as EMS, but she should be under 56 for central office. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have some.
Is it on?
I do have some concerns throughout this motion. I will be voting in favor of all the items. However, it's not without some disagreement. I still can't get my hands around this whole idea of spending money that we don't need to spend. A couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. Doesn't seem like an awful lot, but you put them all together and it amounts to an awful lot of money. And that's money that can be used for programs for our students that directly affect our students. And I just feel like we do need to get a grip on that. Towards that end, I do believe we need to take a serious look at professional service contract awards. I think maybe not every single one that we award, but I made a mistake in finance of asking about a review of one particular area, and I felt like I was making a motion to burn all the books in the school district because it was met with that kind of reaction. I think one of our jobs here is to review everything that we do on a somewhat regular basis, and I do believe, and I'm going to be bringing it up again in finance and facilities, that we do look into money that we spend, especially on the service, talking number 8 specifically, but I do believe we need to periodically review, not every year, not every month, but I think periodically review how we spend our money, who we spend it on, and what we do, and are we doing the best? And we may very well be doing the best that we can and have all the right people, but I just think it's our responsibility to look into that on a regular basis.
Any other comments? Roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. Mail?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Mrs. Slees? Yes. Approval of the minutes. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes? Second. Thank you. We have the finance facilities and vote on that.
Sorry.
Any discussion on the minutes? All right. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. Mail?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees? Yes. Okay. Finance and facilities, Bob?
Yes, I'll give the finance and facilities report. We met on May 1st for 2.25 hours. First item of business, we talked about the Junior Mounties Cheer Club. It's a request to form a new club. And from the information that was provided us at the time, we didn't have enough information to make a good decision. Since then, we've got some more information about the Junior Cheer Club. This is for young girls. It could be for boys too, obviously. And right now, they want to start in May. There's at least 3 between ages of 7 and 11. And this is being done by a volunteer coach to learn girls and boys to be
Bob, could you speak up a little bit, please?
future cheerleaders. They pay $50 as a student activity account, and they get T-shirts and ribbons for that, and they put on a performance at the end of the year. The coach of the high school, and the high school cheerleaders do not receive any compensation, and if there's any money left over, it goes toward a one-week program called We Are the Future. The program runs from April through June, and since they will be starting in May, they will have a performance done sometime in July. They use the upper or lower gym and meet twice a week, usually on Mondays and Wednesdays from 6:30 to 7:30. So we felt with that information, we put a resolution on the agenda for tonight to approve that as a formal club. The next item we talked about was transportation. The county approved our bid package. We're going out for getting the school buses for all our students, and advertisements have been placed, and we should be getting those formal responses within the next month, I would think, correct?
And the bid opening is on May 23rd.
So the bid opening is May 23rd. So at the next board meeting, we would probably choose a vendor. We talked about the lower Alcott Field. You remember from the last meeting, one of the coaches was concerned about overusage and the drainage. The committee felt, we're all very aware that the drainage down there is not up to par. It's always been a problem. I think we can probably spend some money to make that better, but we're not sure about the overusage. We want more information about that, who's using the field, what times, from fall through the springtime, so we can make a decision if we have to change a policy or who's using the field. We talked about the Bedwell Garden. We had feedback from people last meeting about the Bedwell Garden, and the committee felt to make this garden sustainable, one strategy may be to go out to garden centers, like a country mile or back to nature, that could help us run the garden by maintaining it or planting or going to garden club to get volunteers. So we're going to look into that more, because the bulk of the garden work is during the summer, so there's a lot of work that has to be done. Right now it's getting things cleaned up and weeded and planted, and then you do the whole summer thing maintaining it, and then you harvest, and then in the fall you clean it up. So we're going to spend more time on that next time. And the last item we talked about was the resource room tuition reconciliation. We had a report by the auditor for the resource room, and we looked at that and we agreed with the numbers for that. So we owe Bedminster $34,000 for the resource room for last year, but there's a $5,000 credit, which makes it down to $29,000. So we add that to the other number for the reconciled year, we would owe them, and in all the years in the past, up until the end of 2018, we owe them $88,000.05. So we need to pay that to them sometime in the coming year. That's all I have. So I'd like to move motions 1 through 9. Yeah, there's a 9, and we have a chef grant for banners on the addendum. I want to point that out. And we got and I'm just going to move just the finance, then we'll do the facility. So do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question with regards to the garden. I know that you guys discussed it, and last month there was a statement to the effect that the garden had been closed. I just want to make sure that that, in fact, is not true, and that the students and teachers are able to, and volunteers that have been assembled are, in fact, able to access the Bedwell Community Garden.
And that is what I have heard from the principal.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. Mayo?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee? Yes.
So I'd like to now move to facilities and operations, and that's the HIB report, number 1, and the approved Virginia Mountains Cheerleading Club for the spring of 2019. Do I have a second? Second. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Birch? No, abstain. Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. Mayo?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Okay, curriculum.
Okay, can everyone hear me clearly? Yes? Yes, thank you. All right, at the curriculum meeting, Jen Schaffer reviewed the comprehensive equity plan, which the district must be in compliance with. Once the plan is approved by the board, it will be submitted to the county. The affirmative action team has recommended a review of the following items: equitable field use, access to a breastfeeding privacy room in all schools, and the addition of more teaching tolerance resources at the middle school and elementary school. Item 2 on the agenda was the review of some initial summer curriculum projects. Certain courses need to be written, updated, revised, or redesigned. This includes writing curriculum for the project Lead the Way, high school engineering course, revising curriculum for high school AP environmental science, digital citizenship in K-8 health, and financial literacy standards in middle school social studies. Once the projects are finalized, curriculum writers will be requested from the teaching staff, and then the board will approve these projects in June. Field trips have been approved by the administration and this committee. Then Brian Latsky reviews the 2-year ahead BMS math program. We are cognizant of wanting to place students appropriately in math. Therefore, in implementing the 2-year ahead BMS math program, we agreed there would be specific criteria for student placement for 2019-20. When this program was developed, the curriculum committee agreed to have a yearly review of all data associated with the program, which we have done each year since its inception. Regarding the implementation plan for benchmark assessments, we discussed ideas about how the implementation is to be rolled out. We all agreed that it is most important that all SHSD curriculum is aligned with New Jersey student learning standards. Lastly, Gretchen reviewed her district merit academic goals. Discussions centered around the following. We agreed to make provisions for a K-12 identification process for our gifted and talented students and provide services in a consistent way. We will continue the summer program for at-risk ELL students. This program should be data-driven to ensure efficiency and efficacy. Some areas of BMS co-curricular sports seem to be inconsistent with the no-cup policy at the high school. This program warrants a cost-benefit analysis to position the district to consider alternatives to the current structure. So I would like to move action items 1 through 4 on the agenda, and items 1, 2, and 4 on the addendum. Is there any discussion?
Second.
Roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Birch? Yes. Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacomo?
Yes.
Mr. Mail?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Personnel and policy.
Personnel and policy met on May 1st from, I guess, about 11:30 till 2. I have to become a better timekeeper. All of our committee members were in attendance. I'm going to read through personnel first. We continue to monitor student demographics and staffing for the upcoming year, as we've been doing for many months now, and we'll continue to do that until all the final registration and resignations have been received. the resumes for the STEM, not the STEM supervisor, let me get that right, for the science, math, and technology advisor have been reviewed by Dr. Dempsey and narrowed down, and she had assembled a committee of various stakeholders to conduct 2 interviews with her, which were conducted on this past Friday. So, Gretchen, I will turn that over to you to give us an update on that.
Very happy to report that we have a candidate that is on the agenda for this evening, Dr. Olga Edgerton, who is a director of curriculum currently in OPATCON. She comes to us with significant administrative experience in the content areas, a PhD in mathematical physics, and certainly we look forward to welcoming her.
Thank you. We look forward to having her aboard. And finally, we discussed how Dr. Dempsey will continue to adapt her organizational structure so she can inform her search for the assistant superintendent. So I would like to move items 1 through 5 on the agenda and items number 6 through 10 on the addenda. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiucchino?
Yes.
Mr. Mail?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Okay, policy. First, I'd like to note that all policies in draft were appended to the agenda per the board vote last month, and we'll continue to use that so going forward. The first, we spent time looking at policy 0164, conduct of a board meeting, and we agreed that over time things have evolved and this policy needed to be reviewed to make sure our practice was reflecting the policy or as appropriate and needed to make any changes to our policy to properly reflect any practices that have changed. The draft that was included in the agenda reflects these changes, and this policy is in first reading tonight. The board has spent several months researching, listening to the public, some of which were coaches and student organization leaders, speaking with our athletic director and other administration as appropriate, and discussing in various committees fundraising. As part of this, we have reviewed and suggested changes to some of the various policies we currently have with regards to fundraising. Specifically, those policies that we reviewed are 5830, pupil fundraising, 6631, privately funded athletic teams and co-curricular activities, 9191, booster clubs, and 9210, parent organizations. You will find revisions recommended by the committee to 5830, 9191, and 9210, and those are in first reading tonight. The board's goal was to take into consideration how we are currently supporting our athletic programs, the needs of the teams, student comfort with fundraising, timeliness of funds being spent, mechanisms for collecting funds, and ultimately the reporting and accounting of these funds. We are really trying to strike the right balance across the board and are trying to ensure that fundraising is done in a meaningful, timely, and accountable way. The changes to the fundraising policies recommended by the committee reflect these priorities. Policy 7510, which is the field usage, is also in second reading this evening. So I would like to move items 1 and 2 on the agenda. Any discussions?
Yes. I'm hoping that this board will consider not voting in favor of action item number 2. I've listened to people that have come up and talked about charging for the use of our facility. I could agree with Ms. Walsh more in that this is going to have an adverse effect on the organizations, number one. Number two, we are in the business of providing the best for all our students. I can't fathom how much money we are going to put in our coffers if we charge all these teams. I don't know what kind of money we think we're going to make. The idea of that field is to be used. I started on this board when the proposal was made by a newly formed organization, SHAP. I know people on this board disagree that the board paid for that field. That is not the case. The board paid for engineering work. The board paid for attorneys to litigate the lawsuits against us for putting a turf field on top of a dangerous, horrible dirt field with glass and rocks and everything else in it. It was the most pathetic excuse for a field I think, one of the most pathetic excuses for a field I think I've ever seen. I don't know how charging organizations and the possibility of people not participating in these organizations. These are our students. They go to our schools. They live in our communities. They're part of us. They're part of our family. And why we're in the business of making money off of these students is beyond me. The money that we're going to make is, we spend, and I alluded to it in one of these other motions, we're spending money, and I've spoken about it time and time again publicly. I've spoken about some more sensitive issues privately that we're overspending money on that we don't need to spend. By no means am I an expert, but I have 43 years experience in this business, so through osmosis I know something. I'm not the brightest bulb in the pack, but I've learned something through those years. I've watched, I've coached kids, I've worked with junior programs, and we're hurting our own high school programs by hurting these junior programs. And I think it's a mistake to do this. I do believe that the town will follow suit and they'll find other ways to fund that field. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. I think we have to do what we feel is in the best interest. I know there's nothing in writing about when that field was built, we weren't going to charge people to use it. I think we've been very respectful of the neighborhood in terms of using it. I don't believe anybody is going to overuse the field or ruin the neighborhood or anything like that. I think we've been very respectful over the years, and I just feel like this is a huge mistake, and that should not be what we are about. We should be about encouraging more students to participate and be productive in sports, because if they can't find it in sports, if they can't find it in activities, again, I've worked with kids a long time, they're going to find it someplace else, and it's not always the best place to find it. So I would implore this board to reconsider and either table this and discuss it a little bit more, or vote against it.
I just wanted to say that I concur with what Mr. DiCicchino said. When Mrs. Walsh said that two wrongs don't make a right, that really spoke to me. I think just because other towns are doing this, just because our own town is doing it, doesn't make it right. I really heard Mr. Long's comments about what this will do possibly to the athletic teams, people's ability to play, desire to play. And in a world where we all often are concerned about kids being on electronics too much, I think perhaps by taking away an opportunity to get out there and play sports, we're only feeding into having them sitting around on electronics more. So I encourage my fellow board members to vote against this.
Can I just ask a question? So the new information that came to light to me this evening was with regards, because I am curious how, and I know people are not going to want to hear this, but I want to ask the question, and I'm genuinely looking for an answer here. So all the other towns that we've researched, many of which are in Somerset County and a lot of our neighboring districts, Mendham included, they do charge for use of their fields, or they simply do not allow the fields, the turf, to be used. I'm talking specifically with turf. And so I guess, and I think one of the pieces of information that came to light for me tonight possibly was the fact that because we have smaller programs, we can't sustain these fields. Because I am wondering how these other towns are able to sustain their programs and still use the turf. One of the things I was wondering is maybe they don't always use the turf to practice, and do our teams typically practice, have all their practices on the turf fields, which would thereby, cause the cost to go up significantly. So those are kind of two of the things that I came to the podium this evening that I'm wondering about.
Can we answer?
Can we address that or not?
Yes, you may.
My name's Ed Caldwell. I ran the wrestling program and just recently elected the president of the football board. 50,000 families in Baskin Ridge, 50,000 families in Bridgewater, 7,500 in Burnsville. You can do the math. There's the youth football program over at Baskin Ridge. Sometimes the flag program plays each other. They have 10 teams that play each other. They don't even play other school districts or other towns. We go out and play other towns. So if they have 20 kids, 25 kids on a team, you're talking, times that by 10. That's a lot of student athletes that are participating in that sport. So how can they fund it? That's how they fund it. They also built the field on Mountain Park in the hopes that it will be pay to play. They knew that going into it. So that there's a little bit of that. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, what about smaller towns like Mendon or
Chester Mendon.
It's just a huge school system.
We don't have grass fields, like other towns have a lot of land and grass fields. We do not have, as we all know, the whole problem was our town is so small and the square footage, there is no grass fields, or they would play on them, but there is none, and that's why the turf was built at the high school for more availability, why the hopes was that the turf at the polo grounds would make everything like more available, but the situation is now we can't use it at all, and it's compounded the problem actually, made it worse, but we do not have the grass flat land too, we have mountains, difference.
No, I would just like to say, and I appreciate the information, so thank you for that. I guess the inverse to that to me that I'm struggling with as a school board member is that, we have a pay-to-play program in our middle school. Our parents pay a lot of money to have their children participate in sports. So I am having a difficult time reconciling subsidizing programs, albeit with youth in our town, and I do understand that. Subsidizing that, but not being able to reduce the cost in our middle school program, or even provide transportation for that.
If you had to pay for the fields in the town, you would have to double those costs. Like, for example, the softball teams and the baseball teams use the town fields and do not pay a fee, so the Burnsville residents pay for that. So if you had to pay that, that would quadruple their costs.
And I understand that, but I do also understand that there is a lot of give and take.
So it's not subsidizing that, we're paying fees too. They're paying fees for the coaches, not to use the fields. So imagine if they had to pay to use the fields.
Right, but also our school district provides a lot of, we allow the, there's a lot of that.
But I'm saying
so I think that we kind of.
But I believe the town and the school are working on, in our town meeting, we discussed trying to figure that out and quantify what both sides are giving and what both, just to kind of figure out what is the nature of that relationship. Because we talk about it, but nobody really knows exactly what that means. So when the Boy Scouts use a classroom or basketball uses a gym or we use a field, we talked about trying to put some understanding about that relationship. That has not happened yet. That is something that is in the works.
We also have high school teams that use facilities that are not our turf fields.
that are not provided by the school system that have to fund it themselves.
That's
So until we start
right.
funding those, we have to think about those as well, because they come to us, and, they're raising a lot of money, and they would like us to pay for it.
You can't hear? Jan?
So we have high school teams, yes, I'll put it right in my face. We have high school teams that use facilities that we can't provide, skiing, swimming, hockey. And those teams have to actually raise money to pay for the facilities. So I think we have to consider that as well, but unless we're willing to fund those, we have to think carefully about funding other things.
So, I have a couple of quick questions. We have youth programs that use our gyms, right? And just remind me, are we intending to charge the youth programs for the use of our gym?
Depends on the level.
Yeah, town rec programs don't pay to use the gym.
So the town programs will not be charged for the use of the gym?
No, the town.
So the basketball team will not be charged for the use of the gym?
That's a rec program.
And the wrestling team will not be charged for the use of the gym?
I assume that's a rec program, I don't know.
Okay, so my question then is, what makes the field a unique class that it should be charged for when the other facilities that are similar, actually different in that they are, the field was paid for separately, but I'm curious as to why, like what we're trying to solve for with a unique, just let me finish, just with uniquely targeting field use as the only class of facility for which we will charge our youth sports programs. What is the rationale behind that?
I mean, I think that if I can speak for the committee, that goes back to the replacement cost, the wear and tear. I mean, I think we've heard.
I think that was addressed at the last session. I thought it was covered.
I'm not sure it was. I don't think it was, I mean.
So is our concern that use of the, again, I'm just trying to understand because we are targeting a specific school asset, the field.
And we do that.
Just let me finish. We're targeting a very specific school asset, the use of the field, as its own unique category for which there will be a charge levied against youth sports teams, and I'm curious as to what the motivation is and what we're trying to solve for.
Okay, so I think we feel like the replacement cost of the turf, and, I mean, we also charge to use the PAC Center. So there are certain premium spaces in our building that we charge to use.
Gyms take a bigger hit than fields.
Just before you vote though, could you go back and look at the minutes in 2008 when the money was said, like the gift was given and it was set aside in the capital fund?
So just so I'm clear, are we saying that the rationale that the policy committee chose was that the field needed supplemental funds to pay for its replacement, therefore we should charge a fee? I'm just curious as to what the motivation was.
That was one of our, and
So the field, without adequate fees received from rental from youth sports, would be deficient in its maintenance obligation? Is that what we're saying? I'm just curious. I'm also curious as to what number we're trying to solve for, if that's the case.
We're also trying not to compete. We felt that in our meeting with the town, we were not trying to compete with the town and take away the usage of their field because ours was free. That was a bit.
I could not agree more with Jen's comments of two wrongs don't make a right. I don't think, I mean, that, again, what's sort of troubling in this dialogue is that the rationale evolves. Okay? I mean, it's not clear to me yet what the discrete rationale is. I've heard that we don't want to compete with the town. Okay?
okay, so we've also talked about.
Is that what we're saying?
Well, don't you think
That's the most important reason. To me, that's the most important reason. This would be the only free field in the entire county. Okay.
You make a statement like that, I don't know the facts that support it, so
We looked at the field.
happy to have that shared with the rest of the board, but I wouldn't bring facts without.
Well, I mean,
backup.
I have a list right here of the specific schools that we talked to. Their policies are either found online or Heather reached out to their BAs. I can
Well,
read
but
them
I
to
think you could,
like.
just so you know, I'm looking here at the Burnersville, I'm asking Rich facility use and what they charge. They charge for everything. The bathroom, the kitchen, the classrooms, everything you can think of. The, where you sell things, everything they charge for. And they learned, I believe, because their field was being overused, and I think they created this new structure of fees in order to address that. And by the way, we, when this field was put in, we were very cognizant that it cost a lot of money and that we did not want it to be overused. So first and foremost, we take care of the students that attend this school, and if there is overflow that we can allow to use the field, then it's fine to have somebody pay. You can do fundraising. It's
So
possible
are
to
we
do
concerned,
fundraising.
are we concerned that the fields are being overused? Because I understand the rationale if there's excess
Because it costs a lot of
usage.
money to
for-
replace fields.
I'm not talking about in the abstract. Is the
No, no,
policy
that is
committee
the-
or
that
any
is the
committee of this
issue.
board concerned that the fields are being overused? I have not heard that yet as an
Let's go back to the
issue.
first discussion about this. We were concerned that our fields had been committed to a youth sports organization outside our school district from, and I don't have the exact dates, August 9th through the end of November, 5 days a week. That was the start of the concern prior to any of our school district sports teams scheduling. So that started the initial discussion.
Right, that's a scheduling issue.
Right, but you asked about overusage. So yes, if that were to happen, so
Right,
now
but that's
it's.
a scheduling issue. That
Okay,
was
but
not
wait,
an
Tim, you
overusage.
asked about overusage. So if every sports organization was given access to our fields 5 days a week. 6 days a week for how many months? 4 months? Yes, we would definitely have an overusage. I'm not an expert, but I think that would be, and then on top of all of
So it's a
ours.
preemptive policy initiative to
Tim, I
limit
don't-
use
you know-
so that it wouldn't be overused? Is that, I'm just
Well,
trying
I'm
to
just-
follow your logic.
I'm just going back to the reason that all of these discussions started.
Yeah.
And yes, I think that.
Look, I, as you know, others on this board don't agree with this policy. I think we're singling out a particular asset for unclear reasons other than to be in parity with the town. I think the town made a mistake and they're dealing with it. I don't believe two wrongs make a right. I believe our members of our community who are parents of children in this district have expressed concern about the ability to pay for it. And I do not support this policy. I'm going to recommend that we table the second reading. People can choose to vote how they want, but I don't think it reflects well on this board to single out a particular asset for a particular class of users just because of an action taken by this town.
I'd also like to say,
I just want, here's my philosophical issue here that I'm sort of struggling with. So we've had two organizations, youth sports organizations, come and speak to us. We've had lacrosse and football on this field. There are other sports that play on a turf field that if you play those sports in these communities, you will have to go to another team, right? There's not a team in Burnersville. That's kind of where this starts. There's not
Those
a
are travel
travel
programs.
Okay, there are travel programs. So if we offer our field for free for lacrosse and football, I don't see how we cannot offer that for free to, you're making a face, but I don't know.
I don't buy I mean,
soccer
what you're saying is,
field hockey.
if a sport is not offered in our community and members of our community participate in a travel program, a for-profit travel program.
Not-for-profit.
It's not for profit.
No, I'm saying not-for-profit.
that-
Not-for-profit organizations. That's
So-
what we're talking about here.
so
That'd be fine.
some
And this is
burners,
just a board
soccer.
discussion, please. If you want to speak, you can speak later. We're
But
trying to have a
is
conversation.
that what we're saying? Is that we're saying that there are sports that are quote-unquote not-for-profit club sports that are not youth sports of this town that would be singled out? Is that
Okay,
is that our concern?
I don't think I think you're trying to get us, you're trying to say this, I was trying
I'm
to have.
just trying to get clarity.
Okay, and I'm just trying to have a discussion based on information that was brought forward to us from the public that was new to me. So I'm trying to look at this from all aspects and to understand the ramifications of what our decision will be.
Right.
Both to our students, because that is why we are elected here, and to our community members. So all I'm trying to do is understand. And so I started out by asking a few questions and was getting a nice dialogue. And that's what I wanted, was hopeful to do with this. Now I feel, yeah, we don't know. Field hockey could come. So if we do open this up to no charge and all organizations, we can't turn anybody away.
Right,
So, yes, I do believe at that point that we might be talking about overusage.
I don't know how you can I mean, it has to be fair, so.
No, I mean, I think we don't treat a quote-unquote not-for-profit travel, wrestling team as we do our own Birds wrestling team, youth wrestling team. I think
Well, but
it's a
Bernards
stretch.
has a youth wrestling team. Bernards doesn't have a youth soccer team. So therefore, you would have to go outside of Bernardsville to play
We
on a
have actually a middle
not-for-profit.
school.
Yeah, but not for older kids. So you would have to go outside of the town to play on a not-for-profit club team. So my point is, I think if we do this, it just has to be fair. That's all I'm saying. You can't just say this team and that team. It has to be any of those teams that our students play on. And many of our students play on a lot of those teams. And you can't just say it's
Yeah, I
lacrosse
think
and
you
football.
haven't heard from many members of our.
But that's what I mean, though. They're not here. So we've only heard from two, which is the point I brought up.
We're looking to put this policy in based on, when we're assuming it's not going to be fair because teams are going to want it. I think.
No, we have to make sure it is fair.
Absolutely. And I never disagree with that. I
That's
believe we can resolve these issues. I don't believe the football program ever had intentions of occupying that field 6 days a week, every night. I spoke with a gentleman from the program, and he could not have been more cordial. And he said, we understand that if other teams need it, and fairness has to prevail. And I think that's what we're going to do. I just want to remind everyone, we're talking about a field, and it almost seems to me, and I'm not accusing the board of this, I just feel like it seems like we're doing everything we can to keep kids off the field. We're going to try to raise money so that we can replace turf that was basically $1 million gift, half the money in cash, half the money in services in kind. The intent, and again, I served on the board at that time, and I was involved, and I know several of the people on that committee who helped out, and the idea was that this field was going to be used by our community. And I just feel like we're talking about human beings. I've listened to people, and I respect the people who work with our youth programs, and when they tell me that kids, it's becoming so unaffordable that kids are not going to be able to participate. They're going to be priced out of this. And when we lose kids like that, you lose them in many cases forever. And so we're talking about, Mr. Simenow is a football coach. I know kids in that football program are going to eventually come to his program. Well, if 10 kids can't afford to play in the junior program because of the cost of the field, they're not going to come out and play for free for Mr. Simenow. When they get to high school, they probably have already developed other interests and so forth. I think we're losing sight of the fact that it's like we put a limit on the number of people who can read these books behind us. We have a field, we're blessed with that field. I've listened to more people in this community say, I moved to Bernardsville, and they could have moved to Mendham, they could have moved to Bridgewater, they could have moved to Basking Ridge. They moved to Bernardsville for a reason. We're different. To say that, compare ourselves to Ridge, Basking Ridge, Bridgewater, it's apples and oranges. We're a unique community. It's one of the reasons I've stayed the near 37 years, whatever it is I've been here. I've stayed here. I love this community because we are Bernardsville. We are different, and I just, fields were meant to be played on. They weren't meant to be something to look at. That's why people paint. You do paintings so people can look at them. You don't build fields so people can look at them.
I agree with you. I think it just has to be fair. So if somebody wants to make a motion to table this, we can.
Yeah, no, and I'll do that, but just to your point before about sports that are not present in this dialogue right now. The two sports that have been represented in this dialogue are teams that are comprised of members from this school district. So to the extent that there are other sports, the totality of which the team is comprised of students from our school district, they should be treated no differently. But to the extent that they're open to other communities, it's a different class of user. So our teams that we're talking about here, football and lacrosse, are students from the Somerset Hills School District, full stop, right? So again, I think we should absolutely be treating people at parity. If there are other groups, whatever other sport that's comprised of students from the Somerset Hills School District, we should treat them the same, absolutely. But if it's this program...
So there must be a
that is-
litmus test for the committee to come up with for how many students would comprise a majority that...
I didn't say majority, I said it's only open to. Those programs are only open
So
to.
there's nobody in the football program that's not from, there's not one student in the football program?
These are not clubs. These are our community youth programs. They're very different than the soccer.
And they're only boys?
No, there's some girls. My daughter played last year.
No. Primarily, are there any girls' teams? I know there's one lacrosse.
No, there is co-ed.
Girls lacrosse.
And there should be no bias, boys, girls. And the only bias should be, look, if your program is something that we don't offer, and it's a community program that's restricted to members of our community, we should give them the same access to the field as we give them to the gym. I don't think we should single it
I'd
out.
like to look at a little bit different aspect. Everything costs something. So let's just look at the cost. So when the field was put in, look, it's not like you can throw grass seed down and cultivate it and that. We're talking about an investment that has been made in this district that is very costly, which goes to the taxpayers. So the reason why we're doing this, not like we dislike kids, we don't want kids, it's none of that. It's about, we have a field, our children have, first come, first serve is our children that go to this high school and middle school, etc. We also have sports in our district that do fundraising, and they do raise money, and a lot of it, so that they can support their sport. So while I empathize with what you're saying, fundraising is possible, and we have seen it.
In large numbers.
So getting back to the fact that there's a field, it is costly to replace. So we need to have a fund where the money goes into the fund that's solely going to be used for replacement of the field. And part of the way, a huge part of the way to get that money is to charge for the field. Nothing is for free, nothing. It's being borne by the taxpayers. And by the way, we are speaking up on our thoughts about the field, but there's a whole community out there. Just remember that, and we're representing the whole community also.
I think we're talking about shifting what should be town taxes into school taxes. Because these are town athletic groups, and we're asking the taxpayers to pay school taxes to fund it. We should be doing that. Yeah, absolutely. we do.
How are we doing that?
Because the school taxes were paid to replace the turf when the turf goes out. If we charge fees, then then the people who use it, who are not students, will actually pay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what you'd have to really, if you really want to go there, because Bob in the last meeting said that the funds are in reserve for maintenance.
But not only that, those are fungible funds.
Those are reserved for everything.
They're reserved for everything.
It's not just.
Right, it's not just the
Okay,
field.
so we're talking about so we've done some sort of analysis
Doesn't
on the
matter.
marginal
The field,
damage to
the
the
field is going to cost money to replace. Every time it's used, it gets closer to being replaced. When people use it, if they're not students of the school, they should pay a fee for that. There's no reason why I should ask the person in town
The same is
not to
true
lose
for
their
grass.
house
The same is
because
true
they can't
for
afford to pay their
the
taxes.
same is true for
Absolutely.
grass.
And I would actually vote to charge more fees.
Okay. Can I make a motion that we table this as you recommended, Jamie?
Till the next meeting?
Table the second reading? Yeah, I'll second that.
Take a vote.
Do you want to table the use of facilities and the regulation, the use of the athletic fields? Do you want to table both?
Yeah.
They go hand
Until
in
the
hand,
next,
don't they?
yeah, until the
Have a
next,
motion
it's,
already.
It's cleaner to do.
well, I'm giving up the
Yes.
motion, yeah.
Yes.
Right,
What did you say? Until the next meeting, or?
So just to be clear, there are 3 policies that are in second reading. I'm assuming we're not talking about 6620 Petty Calf.
No.
We're talking about policy 7510 and regulation 7511.
Correct.
Can I, is it inappropriate to have another, ask a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the goal of the council, and I don't know if we know this or not, is to ultimately not have, I think I've heard this alluded to, that they're working towards not charging fees for the use of,
I haven't heard that, I don't know what that, I don't.
we don't know that.
I have not heard that.
Not everybody in the town, by the way, just so that people know this, is recommending charging for that field. It's not a unanimous thing that the Borough of Burnsville wants to charge for those fields. There are a lot of people that feel the same way, that we shouldn't be charging for those fields.
That's not the way this works. You elect people who vote. Not everybody gets a vote. It's unfortunate, but that we're in a representative democracy, not an absolute democracy.
I can't hear anything.
I said,
Sorry.
I said, that's not the way it works. Everybody's opinion isn't a vote. We're in a representative democracy, so you elect people and they vote. So just because there are some people in town who don't think there should be charged, it doesn't mean that's going to happen. And the same thing is true here on the school board. We all get a vote.
Okay, so we have a motion to table this until, I'm not sure when, pending the committee's review of it with a recommendation.
Well, it has to be some action, right? I would say you have to have some type of action, because if not, we'll be in the same situation next month.
I know.
So the committee has.
Another review. A review again.
And then they'll make another one.
Until they're ready to
And
make
then
a
they have to-
recommendation. Because I don't know how long that's going to take, and I don't know, I don't want to say
That we would have a
August,
recommendation.
or I don't want to say it's ready in June. I don't know what information needs to be gotten. So I would say the motion could be to table it pending further review until we have a recommendation again. We can vote for that. We can just take a vote on tabling it, and then we go from there, depending on how that goes. So we had Tim made the motion,
Yeah, I think.
and Kathy seconded
Kathy
that.
made the motion.
Table
Kathy
it.
made the motion, I second.
Yeah, and Tim seconded.
Okay, yeah, okay. So we have to vote on tabling it.
Okay. Mr. Baker,
No.
Ms. Birch,
No.
Ms. Cooper,
No.
Mr. DiGiacchino,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
No.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro,
Yes.
Mrs. Tober,
Yes.
Ms. Virtue,
No.
Mrs. Lees.
No.
Wait, that's 6-4. so it doesn't pass. Correct? 6 no, 4 yes.
We just voted on tabling.
Correct. Right. So it is not tabled. So now we're back to our original motion and second to vote. Any further discussion, or do you want me to
Now I'm
take
going to
a
repeat
vote?
myself, we're talking about children. We're talking about the lives of children and people getting involved in sports and not losing anybody. We talk about no child left behind, we talk about every child is important, and that's going to be the basis of my no vote when we take this vote.
My only incremental comment would be, since it appears that there's some, we've anchored the policy on a town action, and there's some change in the town action, the tabling would be to amend it so that that if there was any reversal in any town pricing or making those fields for free, that they would be at parity. There would be no cost associated with these fields if the town would produce their fields. Because that's the logic that you've thrown out as being why we're doing this.
Well, policies can always be amended.
That's why I'm saying table it. No, we wouldn't ultimately be tabling every policy because this is a policy that's a reactive policy to the town council, and the town council is itself trying to change their own policy. But in any event, we can vote on it. I think it's a mistake, but we can vote.
We are voting because the tabling didn't pass.
No, we have to vote on the second reading.
Yes, that's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying.
So we're
Do
voting
you need
on all
to
of them?
separate the vote from petty cash from these two?
Can we just vote for petty cash and get that over with? Because,
Well, we already did the motion to postpone it,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
you're right.
failed, so we're back to the original
You're right.
motion, which is the 1 and 2.
Right.
Why would
Oh,
we
just
separate
one
it
and
out
two.
now? Yeah,
Okay.
right. I mean, now we're voting for it or not.
What
Mr.
are we
Baker?
doing? What are we doing?
We're voting for 1 and 2. If you want to vote no on one and yes on the other, you know.
So 1 and 2 is,
The first reading?
The first reading and the second, and then the second reading.
But Heather, I think we should split them out because people might vote yes for petty cash, but no for the other.
Correct, and I think as I
Want that
call the vote, just specify that. Yes, just specify what you're saying no to and yes to. Mr. Baker?
Yes on all policies.
Ms. Birch?
Yes to all policies.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes to all policies.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes to number 1, no to policy 7510, no to regulation 7511, yes to policy 6620.
Mr. Mail?
Yes to all.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes on 1, no on policy 7510, no on regulation 7511, and yes on policy 6620.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes to all policies.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes to number 1, no to policy 7510, no to regulation 7511, and yes to policy 6620.
Ms. Virtue?
yes on all policies.
Mrs. Lees?
yes to all policies.
Okay. Motion passes.
We can always revisit. Community relations did not meet. Right, Kathy, we did not meet.
Community relations did not meet this month for the primary reason that we're making our last visit to Galloway Township, to the school, high school there to observe their internship program. And once we come back from that, the group will regather, discuss it, and bring our comments forward in the next meeting.
Supplementary matters. Right?
Yes, I I just would like to thank this board for their support on the intergenerational prom. This board is, and all the previous administrations have supported this Golden Prom for the past 12 years. I would like to thank all those board members in attendance. I truly appreciate that. The other staff members who were in attendance. I will say the staff members who were there, it brought tears to my eyes that we had staff members coming out. I would address, and Mrs. Vogt, Mrs. Butler, if you could tell Mrs. Vogt, she had her teachers there so that some of our classified students could be in attendance and enjoy that, and they all gave it, as well as you guys did, Mrs. Butler and Jamie and Dr. Dempsey. And Dr. Dempsey promised me last year she would come, and she did keep her promise, and I truly appreciate that. I know Mrs. Shopper would have been there, she could. Dr. Shopper, she couldn't have been, but it's, I think the public understands this. We put a lot of time into being on the Board of Ed, into our teaching and administrative responsibilities, and for people to come out on a night when they don't have to come out, it's not in anyone's contract, it's not part of what you sign on to when you become a board member to come to these events. It's something people do because they love doing it, and everyone that is involved truly appreciates it. I speak for everyone. And I will talk about the highlight of the evening, because nobody else has, is Victor, our own Victor, was voted the king of the prom. And when I tell you that there were 120 kids, there probably been more kids who just crashed it to help out and to be around it, but the love those kids have for Victor is unbelievable, and the love they have for the teachers, especially Mr. Kaplan, who the money he makes for Key Club does not make up for all. I mean, the time that he puts into that prom is way, way over and above, and it is a labor of love, and everybody involved should be commended. And I'm sorry I'm so long-winded about it, but it's a very emotional thing for me, and it brings joy to a lot of people, not just the senior citizens. It's about our kids as well. So, and our kids are just, I shouldn't call them, they're high school students, I shouldn't call them cute, but they are as cute as could be. Maybe that's, I know you don't call high school kids cute, but
thanks
they
for
are
all
as
your work
cute
on
as
that,
can be.
Greg. It was amazing. You know what the best part was? Hearing more than one senior citizen say, you know, they say kids are really not nice these days, and these kids are wonderful. This, it really is amazing to see that. It's a great thing.
Yeah, those kids love it too. They truly love it.
They do.
Thank you.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I feel the need to say this. I feel like I just need to caution us as a board to not always go along with the way things are done. I think when we were having that prior discussion, the comment was made, well, we would be the only town in Somerset County that wouldn't charge. Well, the way I look at it is, wouldn't that be a great thing? Wouldn't that set us apart as a outstanding district to provide that, those venues for our kids? And sometimes what separates a good district from a great district is doing things differently and making those tough decisions. So I would hope that going forward, we'll remember that and try to think that way. So, thank you.
Yeah, the decisions are not easy. Certainly they're not. And I would say this one, for the time being, is something that we have, as a group, spent. I can't even count the hours that we spent on it. And it's sort of awesome. It's exhausting. So we'll see.
I just have one more thing. Jen Schaffler is leaving us at the end of June, and based on her schedule, she's not going to be at our June board meeting. So this is the last time we have her here in front of us all. You know that we all wish you the best, and I'll still feel like when I turn this way that you're
Yes,
working.
right. Well, it was a great opportunity and an honor to work with this board and, the students and parents and the teachers in Somerset Hills. So I will remember you all fondly, absolutely.
Good luck, good luck.
I do just want to say, I worked with Jen closely from being on the curriculum committee, and I will tell you, she's a very smart person, and she's done a lot for staff development in this district, and she has done a lot of homework in presenting different changes, pros and cons, so that the committee has a much better sense of what we're being offered and which way to go. So thank you very much.
And Jen, you can always be counted on to have an exhaustive philosophical conversation about any part of education, really to be, we could go on for as long as I wanted to. How's that? I give you credit for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other supplemental matters? Any public questions and comments on non-agenda items? Or any item? Yes.
Hi.
Let's hear it.
Last time I was destroyed the place. I'm going to say this, preface this by saying I have the absolute utmost respect for all of you, and I have given what I do in the school community. I have a tremendous amount of empathy for the position that you all are in and for the decisions that you have to make. But I would like to say that given the conversation here, for forgetting for a moment the field usage and fees issue, this is the second meeting in a row where members of this board have spoken about how they're elected, and then they're here to represent our community, and they're going to make decisions essentially how they see fit, and kind of disregarding the community members that are here speaking to a matter. And although it may be a limited number of people, collectively, the gentlemen and women sitting here, we have a small sports program, rec sports program, youth sports program here. Collectively, they represent a tremendous number of families in this school district, not in the town, not everyone in the town, but we're the Board of Education here tonight, and specifically the students and their families that are here. And to hear board members speak that way for the second month in a row is extraordinarily disheartening. To hear the comparison between a fee charged for field usage and the way that may impact a child being able to play a sport with a family losing their home potentially because they can't pay their taxes. Adults make a decision as to where they live, they have budgets, and they set their expenses. Children don't make that choice. Children are on the receiving end of all that. That comparison really upset me, because when we're thinking of the children, they don't make those choices. And like I said, taking the whole field usage issue out of it, that was an extraordinary, these comments are just so upsetting to me. So I just would hope that in the future you think about the fact that maybe it may only be 6 people who are speaking, but think who they're speaking on behalf of, because not all these people can be here. I know these people in particular are making sacrifices because their families are running in 18 different directions. So I think it's really important to consider that, and perhaps in the future, when things of this magnitude are being discussed, and there has already been community feedback, and there seems to be a bit of a rift, that perhaps there be some type of open community discussion, or there be a way to separate issues as this arose out of, a scheduling field usage issue and then became something different. I just implore you to think about those things and the public statements that you're making, because perhaps you didn't mean them to come off that way, but sitting there, that's the way they're heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to say thank you to everybody on the board. It's a very difficult position that you're in. I see all the time that you've spent. I agree with Ms. Virtue on a lot of things that she has mentioned. I don't know if you
I don't know if you particular have been up to the polo grounds, the Veterans Field, but we haven't been able to use the snack shack in over 3 years, so we don't have that revenue coming in. We're working with the town right now. I am, quite a few of us are, to try to reopen that snack shack so we can pay for the fees that are going to occur to us. So that's one way. Fundraising is a big thing that all the children and everybody in this community tries to do. Some people are limited, but stop me if you already know this, but do you know how much it costs to have a child register for football, for the youth program? It's $275. We're a nonprofit. That money comes in and it goes out for all of our fees. You raise it by $50 to $325. That's outrageous. That's a lot of money to play one youth sport. $275 is a lot of money. But if you think about paying to play on a field and it's $55 an hour and we want it 2 hours a day, that's $110. That $55 is going to be, the buck is going to be passed on to the student athlete. The student athlete is going to be paying for that somehow. If it is raising money, and we're going to do our best to raise money, but without a snack shack, that's one avenue that we don't have.
Where does that fee go to?
It goes to all the operation costs. It goes for referees. It goes for equipment reconditioning. In out, when it comes in, it goes right back out. The lights cost us $12,000 last year. The lights so we could play, because during the fall, it happens every fall, it gets darker. And at 5 o'clock at night, it's dark. And we have to have lights to practice, because our practice time starts at 6 o'clock. The only reason why it's a club is there's no football team in the middle school or the elementary school. The lacrosse, the only reason why it's a lacrosse club, only for our school district, because you can't play unless you're in the school district, is because there's no lacrosse team in the school system. I grew up in Ohio. We went through a junior high. All the youth coaches were teachers, and they got paid a little bit. And all the programs were right after school, so you didn't have to worry about lights. And we played on the turf field. We played on the grass field. My senior is going to graduate this year, never played on the polo, the Veterans Field, turf field, always played on the grass. Maintenance was taking care of the grass field, fertilizer, lining the fields every year, tore up every year, replanted every year. That was a lot of maintenance. I never heard of us having to pay to play until the town wanted us to repay for replenishing the field. It's interesting to me, but if you go back to the $275 and it's $325, that's a lot of money for 4 boys that I have. They don't have to pay when they're in high school. They have to pay. I have a 7th grader that's going to have to pay, and I have a 5th grader that's going to have to pay $650.
I want to tell you that it's not like we've lied or everybody up there doesn't have a heart, but there is a practical side. And by the way, I appreciate your comments. And by the way, none of your comments are disregarded. We have listened and heard all of your comments, but decisions are made. I appreciate your comments.
So like I said, I appreciate everything that you said, but when we're trying to do fundraising, we don't have an avenue of the snack shack. It might be the entire season we raise $1,500 through the snack shack, but when you don't have that, it would help out. So maybe if you know anybody downtown, thank you.
Board attorney, what constitutes a conflict of interest on a board? What would constitute a conflict of interest?
There are any number of different rules that would have to be.
Right, so
applied.
will
it's
two
very,
members
it's
of the-
very fact-specific, and I
Right, so
couldn't answer
should
you.
there be some fact finding on that? Because if those two members did not vote on the tabling, the motion would be tabled. So maybe we should go backwards.
I take great offense.
I'm not.
No, let me
Go
finish.
ahead.
If anybody who donated, your logic, if I agree with which I don't, any member here who donated $1 to that field could have to recuse themselves too, so.
No, that makes no sense.
No, yes, it does.
No, it
You're
excluded.
accusing-
I'm not accusing anyone, I'm asking what's the
Yes, you are.
standard.
accusing two people.
I'm asking what the standard is. Okay, I'm asking what the
I'm
standard
telling you,
is.
I'm telling you.
Is there a standard for that? I don't know.
There are all kinds of standards, but everything's very
Okay, so
fact-specific,
that
so
they need to
unless
be
there are
considered by the board.
specific
That's all
rules
I'm
that are
saying.
being violated, then
I'm not saying rules are being violated. I am an attorney that works for a board, and I definitely say at every meeting, is there any conflict of interest? Please let us know.
But there are specific rules, as I said.
Right,
you
so
said
like,
you're
let
not
us know,
focusing
and
on
we say, you know
specific
what, we
rules,
don't
but
think
there
it's
are.
wise for you to vote on this. It happens all the time. It's not insulting. It's very commonplace. It happens all the time on board members. It's not an insult.
But I don't
It's
have.
not an
confidence.
insult.
I worked very hard to get that field compromised so we could get it built, because we were at a deadlock. I negotiated, no, please listen.
Yeah, I am, but it's not an insult. It's a question.
I worked very hard to get the neighbors in this community, when I was on the board, to come to an agreement. We came to an agreement. I am not conflicted.
Okay, so then that's something that the attorney would deal with.
Don't come here and
I'm
say
not,
this.
okay,
You brought
that's
up-
very
you brought up three-
commonplace.
You brought up three
Very
times.
commonplace.
3 times.
Very commonplace in a
I know
board's
it is.
question.
We do
Right,
not feel
okay, so
conflicted.
finally, when we talk about fundraising, it's kind of ironic because you're asking these organizations to fundraise for themselves, but a group of members of the community fundraise for you. So really, what they should have done is take the $1 million and give it to organizations or to another field, but they gave it to you, and that should be going into your decision-making process, because they had feasibility, they had free ability to fundraise, they fundraised a lot of money, they got lots of people to donate tons of things, $500,000 in gifts in kind, $5,000 in money, and $100,000 that people actually took a loan. And they could have done that for organizations, they could have done that for the town, but they did do it for you. So I do think that impacts the decision-making process, because unlike other districts, it was a gift. And it was a gift. And then that is a little different, because if you want people to go fundraise, people fundraise for you. Instead of doing it for the football team or the lacrosse team, maybe they should have given them $1 million and they would never have a problem paying the fee. But they gave it to you. And that is a little different. And I'm not trying to be insulting, it's just a fact, I'm an attorney, I work for board, we ask it at every meeting for people to come, if they have any sort of conflict, they have to say it.
Well, I
And they have
believe
to speak
the
to the board
position
attorney.
is that there's no conflict.
Pardon me?
I believe the position is there's no
Okay, I
conflict.
didn't know that, it was a discussion and it was discussed and decided.
Hi, everybody. Ned Ginty, Young Road, Bernardsville. I'll keep this very brief. What disappoints me the most in this whole process is we have not had an in-depth conversation with you in the football program or the lacrosse program. We've been up here, we've talked about it, but to really understand what we're dealing with, you really need to understand what we're dealing with. We'll open up our books to you. We'll tell you how many kids are on scholarship. We'll tell you how hard it was the last 2 years of not having a field to fundraise. There's a lot of presumptions and assumptions that are going on. There were things that were brought up tonight that we dealt with back in March when we explained to you why we reserved those dates. We can't practice more than X amount of hours a week. It's against policy in our leagues if we practice more hours than what we are allotted. So to think that we're going to overuse the field, whether it's 6 days a week, we're not allowed to. Again, it's just having the courtesy and the respect for our plights, our issues, and let's have an open dialogue. It's the same issue that I have with town council. It's the same issue I have with any other organization, whether it's in the town or out of town, professionally, non-for-profit. Let's just talk with each other, among each other, not at each other, not using platforms or even presuming that they're platforms, but just come to somebody's house, open the books, line item by line item, and we'll tell you what we're dealing with. Because when you have a vote, and that's my other thing, I would like to say, having a second public discussion after you've gone over certain points of views and some facts that maybe might be right, might not be wrong, and there are people in the audience that could help and say, that's not accurate. Or let's talk about it. Like to say fundraising, we'll tell you why it's been so difficult. Why is football, why is lacrosse so difficult? They're the most capital-intensive sports that use that field. You can make an argument hockey, but hockey doesn't use that field, meaning ice hockey. So understand why. Understand what we take painful care on the costs that we have to give for safety. When people say, why is your budget so high? Because we care about our kids. We provide the equipment for our kids. The helmets, the shoulder pads, the knee pads, everything. You know, I'm very aware of that because Ed and myself and a few others literally cleared out that snack shack today for 3 hours because the roof of the snack shack collapsed. Or if not collapsed, it became unusable. And all of the equipment in that room has become unusable or damaged. And it's going to cost us more money, or we're going to have to use our insurance policy. Like, we're talking about a very specific sport, very specific issues associated with that sport. And all I'm asking is for you all to come and meet with us. We'll open the books and we'll explain everything that we're dealing with, line item by line item. The last 2 years, again, I'm sorry if it's a broken record, we didn't have a field. It is very hard to fundraise when you don't have a field to get corporate advertising. That's the main source of it. Not knowing when we would have that field. So all I'm asking, and I know you've already voted, so I'm not asking you to untable it, okay, or retable it. If you're going to make a vote that's going to impact us that significantly, please have some sort of amendment that says if there's anything, any new information or any information that could be helpful before this vote, let us come up and talk about it. Because all I was going to say was what I just said, is that please table votes until you know all the facts. When you say you talked to the town, great, but you didn't talk to the football program. You talked to the town, but you didn't talk to the lacrosse program. You didn't see what we're dealing with. So please consider that before you do any other vote. I'm not saying it's going to absolutely change your mind, but you're going to have all the facts to make an informed decision. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Luke Palmer from Lansdowne. I want to agree with Mr. McDonald that says it seems like you're specifically picking on one facility or one facility. The rec program uses the gyms, they use the wrestling room, all for free. We have hundreds of kids that go and play basketball. They use it sometimes during baseball season with their wear and tear on gym floors, which the district replaces periodically, which has probably been replaced more than the field has been up for 10 or 12 years now. The gym floor probably has been replaced a few times since then, both the upper and lower gyms. So you're picking on one facility to charge, and you're not charging for the use of like the gyms and the wrestling rooms and everything else. So going back to taxpayers' money, taxpayers are paying to refinish the floors, buy new gym mats, and everything else. So, I mean, it seems to me that you're just picking on one facility. So, and I also believe in your bylaws that the community member can request something in policy. So I am asking if policy can revisit this and look at a policy based on the discussions that happen at the public comments at the end of this meeting. So if that's, I couldn't get into the bylaws on my phone here, But I believe that under some of the bylaws or some of the regulations, that if a community member asks policy to look at something. So I'm asking you to revisit this again for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, we will.
My name's Heather Wright. I live at 60 Stone Fence Road. I have a son who's in 5th grade in this school district and a daughter who's in 2nd grade. My son plays football for these guys, and he also plays lacrosse. And my daughter plays on the 2nd grade lacrosse team, which I helped start. I am on the board of directors for Somerset Hills Lacrosse Club for the K-2 program, and I spend hours every week trying to figure out where these little guys are going to play, where the girls are going to play, and to listen to how you guys are speaking about their children is just so upsetting. I work a full-time job, and I'm a Girl Scout troop leader. I spend so much time for these kids, and every which way I turn, it seems like the town wants to limit what they're doing. Now, the school board wants to limit their access to fields. We don't use the fields that much. There's been no problem working with the school district, with the teams. It's been fine. If the high school ever needs the team needs to use the field, we bump. Like, when I get the schedule every week from the rec department, the school district is using the fields, the town fields, for the first 2 hours every single day of the week. So I'm scheduling around that. And on some Saturdays, they're also using the veterans turf. So, you know, we're giving and taking here between the two programs, and for you guys to turn around and now charge us when my girls stepped foot on the turf for the first time today, 2nd grade, because we can't afford to play on it. So they stepped foot, we snuck on, they did a couple ground balls and scored some goals, and we ran off, and that's that. So I hope that you'll rethink this policy that you guys have just voted to put in place. It's disappointing.
Thank you.
I have a different topic for you, for the time being. My name is Judy Martin. I'm a Latin teacher at the middle school and at the high school, and most who know me know that I'm very much involved with technology. So a few months ago, I talked to you about the 15 hours of lost instructional time that's lost to plugging in and unplugging our Chromebook cards. Now, it sounds little. 5 minutes a day in a 1-year course, 180 days, adds up to 15 hours. That's a lot of time. That's not the whole picture, though. Picture, I teach in the 2 schools, so I have 2 computer cards that I'm working with. Each day I'm spending 15 or 20 minutes per day straightening out the spaghetti of strangled cords that are in these cards. And those of you know what these cards look like. It happens everywhere. I've taped them up. I've done a lot of work on doing it, and that still happens. It's still time that I could be spending planning lessons. I could be spending with students, but I'm clearing cards of tangled cords. Also, we're a have and have-nots, the teachers with computers. We do not all have the same access to the computers that everybody has. There are some teachers that don't have a card. They have to go begging and borrowing cards from other areas of the building, taking, again, prep time that they could do for other things. They have to do that. Another aspect with these cards is student use. All right, it's great, students are using them. They don't have ownership of it. They don't have an identity with that computer. In my classes, they do. My students have a certain computer, they're numbered, and they have to use that same computer each and every time. And if there's something wrong with that computer, I want to know it before they start using it. But in other classes, they're not. So the tech department has told me there's constantly keys pried off and damage to computers. Why are we not looking into one-to-one in this district? That's my question. I'm emphatic about it. There's so many things. Is it the best use of our resources, time and money, to continue with the Chromebook cards, or would it be better to go one-to-one? And on another note with computers.
Judy, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
We have historically talked about that notion, certainly at admin council. There have been pros and cons that have been, presented to us. I don't know that we've ever felt like we were at a moment where we were like, okay, the pros were so great that we wanted to pull the trigger and move to that. And yet at the middle school in particular, I can tell you that we have enough machines physically to have that be one-to-one. Certainly, the fact that we have a new supervisor coming into that content area, I believe that that will be a conversation that we will facilitate there. Not to say we're doing that, but we can make sure that you're part of that. Yeah, absolutely.
And have staff involved in that conversation.
Because we all know that you are nothing, well, you're Latin too, but you're tech.
I'm tech. That's the best time to keep Latin alive is through tech. My other comment that I wanted to make really quickly is we need something like Go Guardian. For those who don't know, Go Guardian was a way that teachers could see exactly every minute what students are doing on the computers while they're in the classroom. They're not always doing what they're supposed to be doing, and now we do not have Go Guardian. Surprise, surprise, we don't have the ability to find them and focus their attention.
And that specific product had some concerns for us in terms of, just so the board understands, students who might be accessing their Somerset Hills Google account even on outside of school hours and from a machine that was their own families. We now had a mechanism where we were actually logging what was happening on that machine, and so that called into question some
There have to
concerns.
be others, and when I asked about it, I was told, well, find one, to me. But I'd rather be spending my time on my Latin students. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you.
Found that policy at 0131, where a member of the public can request that a policy be reviewed. Thank you.
Review it.
40-some million budget, and we have to charge our kids in our communities to play on the field that we worked to build. There's something really wrong here, really wrong. I can't even believe that tonight you voted against the use of that field when the field was empty and no conflict. We're gonna use that field. We paid for that field. The board didn't pay for it. The taxpayers didn't pay for it. We built it because you wouldn't build it. And every field in this town was built that way. The polo grounds, the lower polo grounds was built that way. No money from the town. It was a dirt road. My grandfather walked me up there. My uncles built the upper field. We built the playgrounds. We built the agility course. We built all these things. The snack bar, the lower field. There's something wrong with you people sitting here and not dealing with our kids in this town. People don't come to the town because you're not supportive of all the facilities that should be built and should be supported. And then we have a town that doesn't want to pay us to be here. When we built those two, my mother went to Alcott. My uncles went to this school, where we're standing now. But we have a town that doesn't want to pay, and we can't play on our fields. There's something really wrong. You better take another vote, because I'm going to tell you something. You're going to hear from our committee, because we made a deal here. I did not want to build a field here. I quit the first committee. I said, I'm not building a field on this property, on this school property, because I know what's going to happen. And it happened. And they begged me to come back when they only had $36,000 to build it and didn't know how to build it. And I raised the money, and we got it built at no cost to you. We raised $480,000. We didn't make the budget that we had to make the $580,000. Guess what? I put a $100,000 credit line of credit here to build it for the kids, for the families, for other towns too. No, you don't want to listen to that. Where did the $420,000, how did that get to build a $1 million field? You know how? Because we have a lot of great people that love our kids here. You know, sports gets it on the end. They just painted the gym just recently. I've been painting since my mother went to school here. Sports get the lead, but there's thousands of people. I had no problem buying a $100,000 piano. I had no problem fighting for the theater. I wanted the theater. I want our kids to have all the opportunities, but there's always something. I could list right now, I'm going to send you a list of where all the money is that's wasted here is being spent. Think about this before you walk out of this room tonight. It's always behind closed doors, never in front of the people. These are the people and the kids that we need to help. Don't walk out of here changing that vote.
Any other comments? Comments from board members? I take that a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Who seconded?
Who seconded that?
Thank you.